keep feeling that, and you're going to win this, or he keeps playing well, we just scrap that timeout idea completely?
It's not like I'm choosing it, if that makes sense. It will happen. I can't stop it happening as much as I want it to.
She made history on the biggest stage in darts, beating the men at Alexandra Palace while the whole world watched and the crowd screamed her name. 6 years later, she has no tour card, no ranking, and a quiet first round exit nobody outside the sport even noticed. Something happened to the Queen of the Palace between that roar and this silence, and it involves her health, a broken relationship with a fellow player, and a rival who quietly took everything she built. Here is how Fallon Sherrock went from the most famous face in darts to a woman openly calling 2026 a rebuilding year. To understand the fall, you have to start at the summit, because the height of the climb is the whole point. Fallon Suzanne Michelle Sherrock arrived on the 2nd of July 1994 in Milton Keynes, into a family where darts was already part of the furniture. Her parents, Sue and Steve, threw for fun, and her twin sister Felicia competed too, the pair lining up together for England Youth at the 2011 WDF Europe Cup Youth. Once her A-levels were behind her, Fallon faced a fork in the road between studying forensic science at university and chasing a life in darts, and she picked the hockey. Hairdressing paid the bills while she did it. Those early years were steady rather than dazzling. Girls World Masters champion in 2012, the Women's Jersey Open that same season, then a BDO Women's World Championship final in 2015 that Lisa Ashton took from her. A BDO World Trophy title landed in 2018. Within women's darts, her name carried weight, yet the wider sporting world had no idea who she was. That changed in December of 2019, and it changed in a single night. On the 17th of December 2019, under the lights of Alexandra Palace, Fallon Sherrock stepped up against Ted Evetts at the PDC World Championship, and when she nailed double 18 to close it out, she became the first woman ever to beat a man at that tournament. The scoreline read 3-2, built on a 91.12 average, 6 maximums, and 41% of her doubles finding the mark. The arena lost its mind. What nobody expected was a sequel, yet she delivered one, dismantling the 11th seed Mensur Suljovic 3-1 and sealing it on the bullseye. Only in round 3 did the run end, a 4-2 defeat to Chris Dobie, a nickname stuck almost before the darts had cooled. Queen of the Palace, borrowed from the venue where she rewrote the rules. Billie Jean King sent her public congratulations. Overnight, Fallon Sherrock stopped being a darts player and became a global sports headline. A string of firsts followed, and each one tightened her grip on the title of women's darts figurehead. February 2020 brought her into Premier League darts as the first woman ever to play it. A 6-all draw with Glendoran earned as a challenger. The following September, she reached the Nordic Darts Masters final, clawing back from 9-3 down to topple Dimitri van den Berg in the semis before Michael van Gerwen stopped her in the decider. That achievement still stands alone, because no other woman has ever reached the final of a PDC television tournament. Later that same year, at the 2021 Grand Slam of Darts, she punched through to the knockout stage of a mixed major, posted the highest televised average any female player has ever recorded at 101.55, and landed a 170 checkout to see off Gabriel Clemens before taking Peter Wright deep into their quarter-final. July 2022 handed her the biggest prize of the lot, beating Aileen de Graaf 6-3 in the final of the inaugural Women's World Matchplay. She became the first champion of the first fully televised PDC Women's Tournament. The recognition kept arriving. In the King's birthday honours announced on the 17th of June 2023, Fallon Sherrock was appointed MBE for services to darts, slotting her name alongside legends like Eric Bristow, John Lowe and Trina Gulliver. History came calling twice more that year, with the first women's 9-dart finish at a PDC event in March and the first televised women's 9-darter in August. By the close of 2023, the picture looked uncomplicated. Fallon Sherrock was the saviour of women's darts and one of the most bankable names anywhere in the sport, which is exactly what makes the next chapter so difficult to square. Underneath the firsts and the headlines, her results at the very top had already begun to crumble, and they never came back. One statistic carries the whole story. After that third-round run in 2020, every World Championship Sherrock has entered has ended at the first hurdle. She missed out entirely in 2021. Steve Beaton beat her in 2022, Ricky Evans in 2023, Jermaine Watamina in 2024, and in 2025, Ryan Meikle knocked her out after she had led 2-1. The 2026 edition, played in December of 2025, brought a 3-0 whitewash from Dave Chisnell, a match where her average sank to 84.83 and only 13% of her doubles dropped. There is a harder truth sitting beneath all of that. A PDC tour card has never once belonged to Fallon Sherrock. Q School turned her away in 2020, in 2023, in 2024, and again in January 2026 when 4 first-round defeats sent her home without one. The most famous woman in the sport has spent her entire career reaching the major events through the women's route, never through the main ranking system. While she stood still, someone else was tearing up the record books. Bo Greaves became the engine room of women's darts. Across the 2025 Women's Series, she captured 18 of 24 events and stacked up an 86-match winning streak. Sherrock's place in the story quietly shifted because at the Women's World Matchplay, the very title she had lifted in 2022, she became the bridesmaid, losing to Greaves in 2024 and then falling 6-5 to Lisa Ashton in 2025 after squandering multiple title darts. Fallon herself has admitted she is happy to sit, as she puts it, under the radar while Greaves soaks up the attention. The obvious thing to ask is how a player capable of a 101 average on television starts losing opening matches, and the answer she and the pundits keep circling back to is her health. A kidney condition has been part of Fallon Sherrock's life since 2014, roughly 6 months after her son Rory arrived in April of that year. Doctors diagnosed her with kidney disease, and treatment followed in 2017. In her own telling, she began taking medication to weaken her immune system, because her immune system was the thing attacking her kidneys. The side effects hit hard. That medication triggered facial swelling, what she described as moon face, where her face puffed up as a reaction, visible at the 2017 World Championship, and met with cruel abuse online over how she looked. The condition reaches into everything. She stays teetotal. Water has to flow constantly to flush her kidneys. The fatigue and the lost practice hours are precisely what pundits reach for when they explain the slide. Sky Sports' Laura Turner laid it out in January 2026, explaining that the kidney disease restricted her chances to play and to practice, and that when you are not match sharp, those decisive moments slip away because your timing sits just a fraction off. June of 2025 made it official. Fallon announced the plan to take a year out across 2026 to put her health first, telling people she needed to get herself well again, and that once she did, the sky was the limit. She was careful to call it a pause rather than a goodbye. As the darts faltered, her personal life was moving through an upheaval of its own. For roughly 4 years, from 2021 through 2025, Fallon Sherrock was together with the Scottish professional Cameron Menzies. The two reportedly found each other through an online darts league in Southampton, grew as doubles partners, and went public around July 2021. Darts had its power couple, and Menzies happily called himself her biggest fan. Whatever some websites insist, the pair were never engaged, just a long-term couple with nothing more ever confirmed. That relationship came apart in the middle of 2025. No official statement arrived from either player. The news instead leaked when former Tour pro Vincent van der Voort raised it on a Dutch podcast, confirming it was true while making clear he did not work for a gossip magazine and did not know the exact reason. He pointed back to strain that traced to an incident at the UK Open in March 2025. The loudest public clue came at the 2025 Women's World Matchplay in July, when Menzies, in Blackpool that week for the men's event, was conspicuously missing from her audience, the spot where he would normally have been planted. What dragged the breakup back into the headlines happened at the very tournament this story has been driving toward. At the 2026 World Championship, both of them crashed out in round 1. Menzies went first, beaten 3-2 by Charlie Manby on the 16th of December. His exit turned ugly when he punched the underside of a drinks table on stage and cut his hand badly enough to need a hospital trip. He apologized afterward and revealed that his uncle Gary had died 4 days earlier. 2 days on, after her own defeat to Dave Chisnell, Fallon Sherrock strolled over to her table and gave it a gentle wobble. Plenty read it as a cheeky jab at Menzies and his table punching meltdown. The PDC handed down no punishment for it. Fans split clean down the middle, with one camp calling it brilliant and the other calling it classless. all of which lands us in the present. Where the hell is Fallon Sherrock in 2026? At 31 years old, she is not retired. As of May 2026, her PDC ranking reads not ranked, the consequence of having no tour card after Q School turned her away yet again in January. Her last appearance on a big stage was that first round loss to Chisnell, the night only 13% of her doubles found their target. By mid-January 2026, she had already returned to the floor at the Moda Super Series in Portsmouth. Voices like Laura Turner are casting the months ahead as a rebuild, with the Challenge Tour sitting there as an option to pick back up. There is room for cautious optimism in the mix. December 2025 brought brighter news on her health, with Fallon reporting that she felt more energetic, more positive in herself, and less tired, and that her darts were slowly drifting back to normal. That lift in mood appears to have rewritten her plans, because instead of sitting out the whole year as announced, she played the Worlds, entered Q School, and stepped back into competition. She told Online Darts she did not believe she was far off, that the 90 and 100 averages had started returning, and that once her game clicked into place, she could be sharper than she ever was. So where the hell is Fallon Sherrock? She is right where the title promises, away from the television stages that built her fame, stripped of a tour card, missing a ranking, overtaken by Beau Greaves, and parted from the partner who once shared her spotlight. Yet she is also still throwing, still qualifying through the women's route, and still insisting her best darts wait ahead of her rather than behind. The woman who beat the men at Alexandra Palace and earned the crown of Queen of the Palace assembled a legacy of firsts that no later defeat can scrub away. Whether 2026 becomes the year she rebuilds toward that level, or simply the year she drifted further out of sight, is the single piece of this story still waiting to be written.